Millionaire's secret meeting with his wife's ex-husband ends in a shock that no one saw coming. What happens when a man is forced to face the demons of his past, only to realize that the future he's been building may be more fragile than he ever imagined? In the world of wealth and power, nothing stays hidden forever, not even the darkest secrets. And when those secrets come face to face with the people you thought you had left behind, the consequences can be catastrophic. Today, we unravel a story where a billionaire's life is about to be turned upside down in a way no one could have predicted. A meeting that was supposed to be about closure will soon reveal a shocking truth, one that could destroy everything. In today's video, we follow billionaire businessman Charles Donovan, a man with everything: wealth, success, a beautiful wife, and a life that many would envy. But behind the polished image lies a past he's done everything to forget. When his wife's ex-husband, Mark, a man he never thought he would have to deal with again, unexpectedly shows up for a secret meeting, everything Charles has worked for begins to unravel. What starts as a simple discussion turns into a series of revelations, each one more devastating than the last. As Charles tries to keep his composure, Mark drops bombshell after bombshell, slowly chipping away at the carefully constructed walls Charles has built around his life. His marriage, his business, and his future all are at risk. The once confident billionaire, accustomed to winning at all costs, is now faced with an adversary he can't predict, a man who seems to know all of his weaknesses. What happens next? Charles' life spirals into chaos as he realizes that this meeting, far from a simple confrontation, is the beginning of the end. A game of power, trust, and betrayal unfolds, and by the time the dust settles, no one will be the same. The room is cold. A sleek, modern office high above the city skyline, its walls lined with glass, offering a breathtaking view of the bustling metropolis below. But inside, there's no beauty, only an undercurrent of fear and anger that thickens the air. Charles Donovan, the man who built an empire from the ground up, sits at a polished wooden desk. His fingers nervously tap the surface, betraying the facade of confidence he's worked so hard to maintain. His eyes flick to the door, awaiting the arrival of a man he hoped he'd never have to see again. The man who walks in is Mark, his wife's ex-husband. The last time Charles had seen him was years ago, before he'd married Emma, the love of his life. Mark had faded into the background, but now he's back, and he's carrying something that could destroy everything Charles holds dear. Charles tries to mask the tension, but his heart is racing. The walls of the room seem to close in, the hum of the air conditioning a constant reminder of the unease between them. Mark, unfazed by the luxurious surroundings, takes a seat across from Charles, his expression unreadable. There's no handshake, no pleasantries, just an unspoken understanding that something significant is about to unfold. Charles leans forward, his voice steady but strained. "What is this about, Mark? We don't need to do this. You've moved on. I've moved on. There's nothing left between us." Mark doesn't respond immediately. Instead, he simply watches Charles with a calm, unnerving stare. The silence stretches on, as if he's waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Charles shifts uncomfortably in his chair, but Mark remains still. Finally, Mark speaks, his voice low but sharp. "You really think you've won, don't you, Charles? You think you've got it all figured out? That you're living the dream? But the truth is, everything you've built is a house of cards." Charles freezes, the blood draining from his face. He opens his mouth to respond, but no words come out. There's something in Mark's tone, something dangerous, something that sends a chill down his spine. But what if Mark isn't just talking about their past, about Emma, or about their shared history? What if he's here for something far more sinister? What if this meeting, this unexpected confrontation, is not about closure but about a game with far higher stakes? Could Mark have uncovered something that Charles never intended to resurface? Is there more to this meeting than what meets the eye? Let's dive into the story and find out. The sun is setting over the skyline, its fading light casting a warm glow through the panoramic windows of Charles Donovan's penthouse. The city below seems alive, but here, in the quiet, spacious office, the air is still heavy with an unsaid tension. The room itself is a study in power, sleek, modern furniture, walls of glass, a meticulously crafted wood desk, and shelves lined with books and awards. It should feel like a place of control, a space where decisions are made that shape entire industries. But tonight, it feels anything but powerful. It feels cold, sterile. Charles sits at the desk, his fingers drumming nervously on the edge. The polished surface of the desk reflects his uneasy posture, slumped shoulders, eyes darting toward the door, impatiently waiting. The moment he had hoped would never come is finally here. His life, his marriage, everything he's worked so hard to build is about to be put on trial. The man who stands in his way is not a business rival or competitor. No, this man is something far more personal. Mark, his wife's ex-husband, the man he thought he'd never have to see again. As Charles shifts in his seat, he can feel the sweat on his palms. He's not just worried about the meeting, he's afraid. Afraid of what Mark knows, afraid of what Mark will say, afraid of what it will do to his carefully constructed life. The sound of footsteps approaching the door snaps him from his thoughts. He stands up as the door swings open, and Mark steps in. Mark's appearance is no surprise. His, as Charles remembers, casual yet imposing, a man who's never cared much for appearances, his presence enough to command attention. His eyes, sharp and calculating, take in the room before locking onto Charles. There's no handshake, no pleasantries. Mark simply walks in and sits down, eyes never leaving Charles's face. The silence between them is deafening. It stretches long enough that Charles begins to feel the weight of it in his chest. He swallows, his throat dry. He tries to steady his breath. Charles tries to maintain his composure, but inside, he's anything but calm. He's a man used to control, used to making decisions that shape lives and fortunes. Yet here he is, helpless against a man who holds the key to his past. The anger rises in him as he watches Mark settle into the chair, exuding a casual confidence that only makes Charles feel more on edge. Mark, on the other hand, seems completely unbothered by the opulence around him. He's been in rooms like this before, but they don't intimidate him. The truth is, he has nothing to lose. In fact, he's looking forward to this meeting. He knows more about Charles than Charles would ever want him to, and he knows how to use that against him. For Charles, every second of this silence feels like an eternity. He wonders what Mark has come here for, but he knows that whatever it is, it's not good. The control he's used to feeling is slipping through his fingers, and he can't stand it. Mark is like a shadow in his life, an unwelcome, unwanted reminder of a past he'd rather forget. And yet, that past is now at his doorstep, threatening to swallow him whole. Mark is calm, collected. He's the one with the power now, and he knows it. The longer he waits, the more Charles will crack. He can feel it. He's savoring this moment. Finally, Charles can't take it anymore. The silence is unbearable, and the tension between them is suffocating. His hands slam down on the desk, making a sharp sound that cuts through the air. His voice is tight, forced through clenched teeth. "What do you want from me, Mark?" he demands, his tone more defensive than he intends. "Why are we here? Why now?" Mark doesn't flinch. In fact, he leans back in his chair, a slow smile creeping onto his face, almost as though he's enjoying the discomfort it's causing. For a long moment, he just watches Charles, letting the question hang in the air, the weight of it pressing down on Charles's chest. "You've been living a lie, Charles," Mark says, his voice calm, like he's about to impart some great wisdom. "You've built this empire on a foundation of control and manipulation. You think you can buy anything, fix anything. But there are things that money can't fix. People you can't control." Charles's heart rate quickens. The blood drains from his face, and he's hit with a rush of panic. He knows what Mark is implying, but he refuses to believe it. His eyes narrow, his grip on the desk tightening. "Is that what this is about? You come here, after all these years, to lecture me about control?" Charles spits out, struggling to mask the fear creeping into his voice. "What is it that you want, Mark?" Mark's smile widens, his eyes gleaming with something darker now, something that cuts through the carefully constructed layers of Charles's defenses. "I don't want anything from you, Charles," Mark says, his voice almost a whisper, but the words hit like a punch. "You're the one who's lost everything. You just don't know it yet." The words hang in the air, their meaning slowly sinking in, and in that moment, Charles knows that the game has changed. This isn't just a conversation. This is something far more dangerous. Mark isn't just here to negotiate or settle old scores. He's here to bring down everything Charles has worked for. The walls Charles has built, brick by brick, over the years, his wealth, his status, his marriage, are all about to come crashing down. Charles sits back in his chair, eyes wide, feeling a cold sweat break out across his brow. His mind races. What is Mark talking about? What does he know? Mark leans forward, his tone softening but not losing any of its venom. You think you've won, don't you? You've got the money, the house, the wife. But you've overlooked one thing, the one thing that matters most. The truth. Charles' breathing quickens. The shock of Mark's words hits him like a freight train. He realizes, too late, that the game has never been about control. It's about something far deeper, something that threatens to unravel everything. Charles tries to focus, but his mind keeps racing. Mark's words echo in his ears, relentless and unnerving. You're the one who's lost everything. Is haunted by them, like a whisper in the dark that grows louder with every passing second. The walls of his penthouse feel like they are closing in, the tension between them so thick it's suffocating. Inside, Charles is a storm of emotions. His pulse quickens as he watches Mark's calm demeanor. What game is Mark playing? What does he know? It feels like the very ground beneath him is shifting, like a trap being sprung with each word Mark says. For the first time in his life, Charles feels helpless. He tries to remind himself that he's a millionaire, a man who has built everything from nothing. He has money, power, influence, things most people would kill for. And yet, none of it seems to matter now. Mark, the man he's never fully understood, is somehow pulling the strings. Charles feels the anger rise in him. He hates this feeling of being out of control. His mind flits to his wife, Olivia, the woman he married with the belief that she was his ticket to happiness. But now, as he sits across from Mark, he wonders, has she been hiding something from me all along? The questions keep piling up, each one more dangerous than the last. Charles can't take it anymore. He stands up abruptly, the chair scraping harshly against the floor, and leans across the desk, glaring at Mark. His voice is low, but it crackles with intensity. What the hell do you want, Mark? What's your game? Why are you here? Charles demands, his anger bubbling to the surface. If you think you can just walk in here and shake my world, you've got another thing coming. Mark doesn't flinch. His posture remains relaxed, but his eyes narrow just slightly, like a predator sizing up its prey. The silence stretches between them, a moment of pure tension that seems to last forever. I don't need anything from you, Mark says, his voice as calm and controlled as ever. But you need something from me? Charles' eyes widen in disbelief. He can't believe the audacity. I need nothing from you, Mark, he spits, trying to keep his voice steady. You've been out of our lives for years. Why are you here now? Mark leans forward, his face a mask of indifference. You think it's all about money and power, don't you? He tilts his head, studying Charles. But that's where you're wrong. You've been playing the game wrong all along, Charles. You think Olivia is yours, but she's not. She's never been. And soon, you'll realize that. Charles feels a surge of panic. Mark's words cut deep, and his scrambling to hold onto the remnants of his control. His throat tightens as the reality of Mark's words begins to sink in. Olivia, she's not what you think, Mark continues, his voice like a whisper in the dark. She's been playing you. And the worst part, you've let her. Charles' world begins to tilt. He's not sure what's happening, but the sense of unease is growing. His mind flashes back to every moment with Olivia, the moments of love, the moments of trust, and the moments of doubt that he'd pushed aside. Was it all a lie? Had Olivia been playing him this whole time? His mind races, jumping from one thought to another. What if Mark's right? What if the marriage he's so proud of is built on a foundation of deception? And then the worst thought strikes him. What if Mark has always known something I didn't? He stands still for a moment, frozen, his face pale. The realization hits him like a tidal wave, crashing over him with overwhelming force. He's been blind, so focused on his own ambition and success that he's ignored the most important thing in his life, his relationship with Olivia. The very thing he thought was solid, unshakable, is now crumbling before his eyes. He's not in control anymore. He never was. Mark watches him, letting the silence hang for a moment longer before speaking again. The words hit Charles with the force of a slap. She's been in contact with me for months, Charles, Mark says, his tone almost mocking now. She's been feeding me information about your business, your personal life, your darkest secrets. Charles recoils as if struck, his breath coming in sharp gasps. No, no, that's not possible, he mutters, his voice trembling. Olivia would never do that. Mark leans back in his chair, his eyes gleaming with something akin to satisfaction. Oh, she would, and she has. But I'm not here to play the hero, Charles. I'm here to offer you a deal. Charles's mind is a whirlwind. The game he thought he was winning is spiraling out of control. He's used to being the one pulling the strings, used to being the one in the driver's seat. But Mark is dismantling everything. Every secret, every lie, every piece of control Charles thought he had is slipping away. He feels powerless, exposed. Mark continues, his voice steady and deliberate. You think this is just about you and me? No, this is about Olivia. She's been using you, and now, it's time to pay the price. His words are like poison, dripping into Charles's consciousness, eating away at the core of his beliefs. The question is, Charles, what are you going to do about it? Charles clenches his fists, his knuckles white with tension. He knows Mark has the power to destroy him. Everything he's built, everything he's worked for, could come crashing down in an instant. The stakes are higher than they've ever been. Do you really think you can control this? Charles finally asks, his voice low and dangerous. You're nothing more than a pawn in her game. You've been played just like me. Mark chuckles, his smile cold and almost pitying. That's where you're wrong, Charles. I'm not the pawn. I'm the king. And the game is just beginning. The room is thick with tension. Charles's palms are clammy as he tries to wrap his mind around Mark's words. The unease that has been simmering under the surface for days has now reached a boiling point, and Charles feels as though he's standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into the abyss. The sleek glass walls of the penthouse offer a panoramic view of the city, but it might as well be a wall of glass separating him from the truth that's just out of reach. Mark's revelations have chipped away at everything Charles thought he knew. The sense of invincibility he once felt in his wealth and power is quickly unraveling. He tries to steady his breath, but his body is on edge, his nerves strung tight. Mark is sitting across from him, as calm as ever, but there's something different about the way he's looking at Charles now, a mixture of pity and cold calculation. The air feels thick, suffocating, as though the room itself is closing in on Charles. It's as if time itself is slowing down. He wants to demand answers, but at the same time, he's terrified of what Mark will reveal next. Every moment of silence feels like a countdown to something explosive. Mark tilts his head slightly, observing Charles's mounting frustration. His lips curl into a knowing smile, one that sends a chill down Charles's spine. You're beginning to understand now, aren't you? Mark says softly, his voice a low rumble. That's the thing about control, Charles. You think you have it, but in reality, it's slipping through your fingers. Charles clenches his jaw, a surge of anger rising. He knows something big is coming, and yet, is terrified to hear it. The truth is unveiled. Mark doesn't give him time to respond. Instead, he leans forward, his eyes fixed on Charles with a cold intensity. There's something you don't know, something you've been kept in the dark about for years, Mark says, his tone sharp, as though he's savoring every word. Charles's heart races. He leans forward instinctively, his mind spinning with possibilities, none of which feel like good news. Mark takes a slow breath, relishing the moment, and then delivers the bombshell that will shatter everything Charles thought he knew. Olivia didn't just marry you for your money, Charles. She married you for revenge. You see, her father was ruined because of you. All of this, the marriage, the control, the manipulation, it was part of her plan. She's been playing you all along. The words hit Charles like a punch to the gut. His breath hitches, his chest tightens as he tries to process the information. What? Charles manages to croak, his voice barely above a whisper. Mark's expression darkens. You never knew, did you? Olivia's father. He was a powerful man, someone you crossed in your rise to the top. He was your competitor, a man who had it all until you destroyed him. Your business moves, your mergers, your takeovers, they ruined him. And Olivia, she never forgave you for it. Charles is frozen, the world spinning around him as Mark's words sink in. He can't believe it. Olivia, the woman he married, the woman he thought loved him, had been plotting against him all along. He feels as though the floor has been ripped out from beneath him. He stares at Mark, disbelief written across his face. "No, that's not possible," he mutters, shaking his head as if willing the words to disappear. Mark leans back, his expression almost sympathetic. "I wish I could say I'm sorry for you, Charles, but the truth is, this is the inevitable outcome. You were always going to be a pawn in Olivia's game. She never loved you. She just wanted to destroy you. And now she's getting her revenge." The weight of Mark's words presses down on Charles like a suffocating blanket. His mind races, but everything feels distorted, like he's trapped in a nightmare he can't escape. His breath comes in shallow gasps as the full scope of the betrayal begins to hit him. Her father, ruined, because of me? The thoughts swirl in his head, spinning faster and faster, making it impossible to think clearly. He's always been so sure of himself, so convinced of his power and control. But now, in this moment, he feels like nothing. A man with everything, and yet, he's lost it all. The anger that had been simmering inside him starts to bubble up, but it's quickly replaced by something far darker: guilt. He feels as though his entire life has been a lie, a carefully constructed facade built on a foundation of manipulation and deceit. And now, the truth has torn it all apart. He tries to speak, but his voice comes out hoarse, the words stuck in his throat. "I didn't know," he whispers, almost to himself. "I didn't know." Mark's cold gaze never leaves him. "You never bothered to ask, did you?" Mark's voice is tinged with mockery now. "You thought you could buy your way to happiness, buy your way to control, but control was never yours to begin with. Olivia's been pulling the strings all along. And now, you've just become the victim in her story." Charles stands up abruptly, his chair scraping violently against the floor. His knees feel weak, and for a moment, he wonders if he's going to collapse. His world, once built on ambition, power, and wealth, is now a fragile house of cards that could fall with a single gust of wind. He looks at Mark, his mind a blur of disbelief and anger. "Why are you telling me this?" he asks, his voice cracking. "What do you want from me?" Mark's lips curl into a thin smile, his eyes gleaming with something far too calculating. "I don't want anything from you, Charles. I'm just here to watch you fall. You're already too far gone. This is just the beginning." As Mark's words hang in the air, Charles feels a deep, aching emptiness begin to take root inside him. He's been used, played, destroyed from within by the woman he trusted most in the world. He thought he was the one in control, but in the end, he was nothing more than a pawn in her game. The room feels colder now, more oppressive. He turns away from Mark, his gaze falling to the window, but the view of the city offers no comfort. It's just a blur of lights, a backdrop to a life that no longer makes sense. He wants to shout, to rage against the world that suddenly turned on him. But he can't. He's too exhausted, too defeated. The walls of his empire, the empire he thought he had built on his own, are crumbling, and there's nothing he can do to stop it. Mark watches him with a look of quiet satisfaction. There's no pity in his eyes, only the satisfaction of knowing that is won. Charles, once untouchable, is now on the brink of losing everything. And in that moment, the bond that once existed between Charles and Olivia is irreparably shattered. She's no longer the woman he married. She's the woman who has taken everything from him, and now she holds all the power. The weight of the truth sinks deep into Charles's soul. Every moment now feels like a slow, deliberate torment, each breath heavy with the knowledge that everything he once valued, his wealth, his power, his relationship with Olivia, was a lie. The guilt is suffocating, gnawing at him, relentless. Each glance at her feels like a betrayal, not just of their marriage, but of his very identity. How could I not have seen it? The thought echoes in his mind over and over, but there are no answers. He watches her from across the room, her back turned to him as she speaks to one of her lawyers, a cold, professional tone in her voice. It's like she's a different person, someone he doesn't even recognize. His wife, the woman he thought he knew, is now a stranger, a force that has dismantled everything he's worked for. Charles feels small, and the irony isn't lost on him. He, the man who built an empire from nothing, now feels utterly powerless. His empire, once an impenetrable fortress of success, is now crumbling piece by piece. He no longer controls anything, not his business, not his personal life, not even his own emotions. As he watches her, The enormity of the situation hits him again. Olivia isn't just the woman who betrayed him. She's a force of nature now. She's systematically destroying his life, and with each passing moment, he feels the ground slip further out from beneath him. The fear is insidious, creeping under his skin, as he realizes how little control he actually has. The very thing he prided himself on, being the one who calls the shots, is now the thing that haunts him. The first blow comes when he receives a call from his head of operations. There's a problem with the latest business deal, one that he was sure would secure his position for years to come. His stomach tightens as he listens to the details. The acquisition he thought was a done deal is now in jeopardy. The rival company that had been on the brink of folding is now being bought out by a competitor, and it's all because Olivia has pulled the rug out from under him. She's already maneuvered her legal team into position, sabotaging his business dealings and creating a ripple effect that will take months to undo. The board members are already questioning his leadership, whispering about his stability, and his investors are pulling their funds. They are not just questioning his financial decisions, they are questioning his ability to lead. Charles tries to hold on to his composure, but he can feel the walls closing in. His empire, the very thing he thought defined him, is crumbling. The power he once had over others is slipping away, and all because of a woman who was supposed to be his partner. And it's not just the business, his personal life is falling apart, too. Olivia's cold indifference to him is a constant reminder of his failures. She doesn't even look at him anymore. The woman who once made him feel like a king is now the queen of his destruction. He can feel the judgment in her silence. She doesn't need to say a word. Her mere presence is a reminder that he has lost everything he once held dear. Charles tries to reach out to her. Late at night, he calls her office, only to be told that she's unavailable. When he tries to speak to her directly, she brushes him off, her tone sharp and dismissive. It's as if she's already made her decision. He's irrelevant. His apologies fall on deaf ears. She doesn't care anymore. The antagonist's power. Olivia is no longer the woman he married. She's become something else, someone with a cold, calculating mind, using every tool at her disposal to dismantle everything Charles built. And she's doing it with a precision that is both terrifying and impressive. She holds all the cards now. Every conversation, every negotiation, every encounter seems to favor her. It's as if she's always 3 steps ahead of him, anticipating his every move before he even makes it. Her grip on the situation tightens with every passing day. She's no longer reacting to his actions, she's controlling them. The shift in power is undeniable. Olivia is no longer the passive, trusting wife she once was. She has become the architect of his undoing, and the tables have turned in a way Charles never saw coming. She's not just undermining his professional life, she's controlling the narrative in every part of their lives. She manipulates their social circle, leveraging her connections to make sure he is isolated from his allies. The people who once supported him are now speaking in hushed tones about him behind his back. They whisper about the changes in Olivia, about her power, her resolve. Charles watches all of this with growing disbelief. It's as though he's been reduced to nothing but a shadow of the man he used to be. He doesn't recognize this woman anymore. The woman who once relied on him now stands tall as the person who will leave him in the dust without a second thought. In his desperation, Charles tries everything. He reaches out to friends, old colleagues, anyone who might help him. He apologizes. He makes promises. He begs for forgiveness, trying to reach the woman he once knew, the woman who stood by him through thick and thin. But she doesn't respond. She doesn't care about his apologies. She doesn't care about his promises. His words are meaningless to her now. And the harder he tries, the more futile his efforts become. He starts to realize something that terrifies him to his core. Olivia is no longer the woman he married. She's someone else now, someone he can't control, someone who has no need for him anymore. The emotional toll is immense. Every apology, every plea, feels like a dagger to his heart. He can't even remember the last time she looked at him the way she used to. The love they once shared has been replaced by cold indifference. Charles's desperation grows with each passing day. He tries to get back in her good graces by offering her more control over their joint ventures, even going so far as to offer her a larger share in their business. He offers to make amends, to re-establish their partnership. But none of it matters. Olivia has already made her decision. She doesn't need him. She doesn't want him. And no amount of money, power, or pleading will change that. She's moved on, and he's been left behind, caught in the wreckage of his own mistakes. As Charles watches the woman he once loved pull away from him, he's forced to confront the stark reality of his situation. The empire he built is in ruins, and the woman who once stood beside him is now the one who holds all the power. The world he once controlled is no longer his, and the future he envisioned for himself seems more distant with each passing day. And all of it is because he didn't see her for who she really was until it was too late. The evening air is thick with the weight of impending conflict. Charles stands in the foyer of his mansion, nervously checking his watch for what feels like the 100th time. Olivia's figure looms in the doorway, her back turned to him. She's been quiet for days, quiet in that unsettling way that suggests she's planning something far beyond his understanding. He's never felt this small, this powerless. The silence between them is suffocating. They haven't had a real conversation in weeks. Each word they've exchanged has been laced with thinly veiled contempt, and now, with everything that's happened, with everything that's come crashing down, there's nothing left to say. Or so he thinks. Olivia, he finally breathes, his voice trembling despite himself. We need to talk. She doesn't turn around. Do we? She asks, her tone icy, distant. The words cut through him, each one a reminder that this is no longer a partnership. This is war. Olivia has become a force of nature, and he, once the mighty millionaire, is nothing but a pawn in her game now. You've taken everything from me. Charles spits, his words laden with frustration and anger. My empire, my business, my respect, everything I built is gone because of you. Why? Why did you do this? She finally turns to face him, her eyes cold as ice, but there's something behind them now, something deeper than anger. It's the look of a woman who has been wronged, a woman who has lost herself in the need for justice or vengeance. Charles can't decide which, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that she's holding all the cards, and it's too late to take them back. I didn't take anything from you, Charles, she says slowly, her voice low but filled with quiet authority. You gave it to me. You handed it all over when you thought you could control me, when you thought you had the power. You were never in control, Charles. I was always the one calling the shots. You just didn't see it. His jaw clenches. You're delusional if you think I'm the one who gave this to you, he says, his voice rising now. I made you. I gave you everything. You were nothing before me. You owe me everything. At those words, Olivia steps forward, her eyes narrowing in a way that cuts through him like a blade. You're right, she says, her voice now almost a whisper, but the venom in it is undeniable. You gave me everything, but in return, you took from me everything that mattered. My dignity, my trust, my love for you. You thought I was weak, Charles, but you were wrong. Charles takes a step back, the realization slowly dawning on him. She's not the woman he married. She's not the woman who needed him. She's become something more, a force, a weapon, something far beyond the control of any man. I'll make you regret this, he says, his voice shaking with a mixture of rage and fear. I'll take back everything. I'll destroy you, Olivia. You'll see. You'll wish you never crossed me. But she's not listening. She's already turned her back on him, her mind elsewhere, her focus fixed on something beyond him, beyond the wreckage of their marriage, beyond the ruin of his empire. Your words mean nothing now, she says, almost absently. Everything you built, your wealth, your business, your power, it doesn't matter anymore. You've lost it all, Charles, and I'm the one who's taking it from you. Charles stands there, rooted to the spot, his world collapsing around him. The anger that had burned within him now feels hollow, insignificant. It's as if the very foundation of his existence has been ripped from under him. He's not just losing everything he's worked for, he's losing the one thing that once defined him, his sense of control. Olivia's cold demeanor only makes it worse. There's no emotion left in her voice, no sign of the woman he once knew. She's become a stranger, someone capable of destroying him without batting an eye. He wants to scream at her, to lash out, but the words won't come. There's nothing left to say. His empire is in ruins. His reputation, once impeccable, is now in tatters. He's been shunned by his business partners, abandoned by his closest allies, all because of the manipulations and calculated moves of the woman he thought he could control. He's lost everything, and the worst part, is powerless to stop it. Charles turns away, trying to hide the tears that threatened to spill from his eyes. He's never felt so utterly alone, so insignificant. The life he had built, the success he so desperately craved, is gone. His riches are nothing but a distant memory, a cruel joke at his expense. He is broken, utterly broken, and it's all because he couldn't see the truth when it was staring him in the face. But even as he stands there, broken and defeated, a small part of him wonders if he can find a way out. Can he still salvage something from this wreckage? Is there any hope left? Or is it too late? Charles stares at the reflection of himself in the darkened glass of the window, his face a mask of despair. He sees the man he once was, the man who was sure of his place in the world, who believed that power and money could solve any problem. But that man is gone. In his place stands a man who has lost everything, who has nothing left but the bitter taste of regret. How did it come to this? How did everything fall apart so completely? The questions swirl in his mind, but there are no answers. He knows now that it wasn't just Olivia who destroyed him. It was his own arrogance, his belief that he could control everything, that led him to this point. He thought he was untouchable, but now he knows that no one is untouchable. Looking back on the choices he made, the way he treated Olivia, the way he used her, he can't help but feel the weight of the consequences. He never realized how much she had suffered, how much she had been willing to give up for him, until it was too late. He took her for granted, believing that she would always be there, always forgive him. But forgiveness has a price, and he's paying it now. Charles knows now that he's no longer the man he once was. The power, the wealth, the control, it was all an illusion, a fleeting moment in time. And in the end, it was love, true, honest love, that he lost, and that, he realizes, is the one thing that can never be regained. As he stands there in the silence of the room, he knows that the life he once had is gone. Olivia has won, and now, all he can do is reflect on the mistakes he made, the choices he didn't see coming, and the cost of his own greed and arrogance. The game is over, and he has lost. Closure of the story. What began as a game, a carefully crafted power struggle, ended in total devastation. Charles thought he could control the rules. He believed that money, power, and manipulation could keep him at the top. But in the end, it wasn't power that mattered. It wasn't control or even vengeance. It was something far deeper, something that Charles never understood until it was too late. Throughout the story, we saw how arrogance and manipulation led to the unraveling of everything Charles had built. Olivia, once the pawn in his grand scheme, transformed into the ultimate player. She outsmarted him, outlasted him, and ultimately held the cards that shattered his empire. Her quiet strength became her weapon, and in the end, Charles was left with nothing but the bitter taste of his own mistakes. As we reflect on this story, it becomes clear that no one is invincible. Even the wealthiest, most powerful can fall when they underestimate the people around them. Power may win battles, but it doesn't guarantee victory in the war. And in the end, it's not the material wealth or the empire that defines us, but the choices we make, the relationships we build, and the way we treat others. Charles thought he was in control of the game, but in the end, it wasn't the game that controlled him. It was the consequences of his own actions. The question now is, will he ever recover from this? Can a man like him change, or is he doomed to live the rest of his life haunted by the guilt and devastation he's caused? Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think of Charles' journey? Was he always destined to fail, or could he have redeemed himself if he'd seen the warning signs earlier? Can someone who's lost everything ever find a way back, or are the consequences of their actions too great to overcome? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What would you do if you were in Charles' shoes? Could you ever turn the tables, or would you spiral into the same fate? And if you've enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this one. We've got plenty more stories to share that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time with another jaw-dropping tale of power, revenge, and the consequences that follow.